Hello, my name is Dan San, and here I am doing a very short video, I hope it's short, about 10 minutes maybe, on data science and the Empirecraft. And I apologise, this isn't my usual Minecraft video. It's a bit different. If you like it, put a comment below. If you don't like it, put a comment below as well. Let me know what you think, because if you like these, I will make more of these talking about what we're doing behind the scenes on the server. If you don't like it, I probably still will make more, but I might move into another channel. I don't really want to do that because I'm trying to grow this channel. I don't really have the time. I'm a hobbyist creator to grow 2 channels, so please be aware of that. Anyway, let me know what you think. Put some comments below. I'd really love your feedback, and thank you for everyone, by the way, who messages me on the Discord or any other thing. It is really nice to get some feedback on these videos about what's going on. So first of all, I want to thank Lego Jedi Mind Trick. He's really helped me a lot because I'm a programmer, I'm an engineer, I'm not really a data scientist, so we've been kind of going on this learning experience about how data science works, manipulating the data and exploring the data, and he's really growing as a programmer as well, which is really nice to see. Secondly, I want to really thank Redhead Jedi, DS Man and Stitch. These 3 guys are the server admins. Redhead is the owner. Now, there are a bunch of helpers as well, but I really want to call these 3 guys out and say they do a fantastic job of running the server, maintaining the server, and that has an impact on this video. So I'm not an admin, I'm only a helper. I will do a separate video about what that means and what helpers can and can't do and why you should go to them before you go to the admins. But yeah, these 3 are really important to the server. Don't bug them too much for petty stuff. Great guys. So I want to talk about the economy, and we set out there, we built the quad witch farm, and then we wanted to say, we want to do another project, but I wanted to look at the economy. People have super strong opinions on the economy, and when you start challenging some of those opinions because there's a lack of raw data, they get really aggressive towards you. Some people do. Some people are like, yeah, good fun chat. But some people are like, no, you're wrong, and you don't understand how the economy works. So, well, I come from Eve, and in Eve there really is an economy because there's multiple locations, multiple shopping districts, there's migration of assets between places, there's creation, destructions, and all kinds of things. Now, what's interesting is that doesn't necessarily apply to Minecraft, but people like to take things from other places and say apply it to the Empirecraft world in particular, and say, look, it works over here, therefore this is how the economy works. And the real world doesn't function like Empirecraft does, but also things like Hermit doesn't function like Empirecraft does. Just because Empirecraft is a Hermit-like server and it borrows some of the rules of it, the Hermits and Hermitcraft make content, and their shopping district reflects the fact that they're trying to make content. So they have some social rules where they don't overstock the shops with too many things, especially in the early game. They try and specialise, they do deals with other players. But you've got to remember that they're a very small set of players who are on all the time, and therefore that works. We have a player base, so it's not their jobs. People come and go because of real life things. The shops aren't always at stock, people want to play, people want to branch out and do other things. It's a lot more it's a lot less organised than the Hermitcraft shopping district is. Even the shopping district in Hermits, I don't think it's obvious it's organised. It really is behind the scenes, and a lot of planning goes into that. But what we do know is that some players are incredibly poor and some players are incredibly rich. And there's a lot of injustice in this, or perceived injustice, and this causes a lot of fights between people, and we often have the same conversation over and over again. But the reality is we don't have much data, which is daft because we have a game and we have information to get that out of. So you begin to see comments like this saying, oh, the economy is broken, or these things shouldn't be this price. And I have just randomly selected some random comments from the Discord channel which had the word economy in it, and people are like, we've got problems with the economy. And so they go, have we? The economy works. Whether it works perfectly, no economy works perfectly. Whether it works good enough, and they sit there and think, if we did a full reset, the economy would be fixed. And you sit there going, would it? I'm not convinced it would. I'm not convinced that certain people's suggestions to changes would fix the economy. However, you can't tell if it has or hasn't without real data what's going on. So I want to know, especially Ash's comment on the bottom here goes, I have a little project that will change the economy. So going, how is it going to change the economy? And you can't tell that without measuring before and after. So one of the lean principles is you have to have a metric to know whether it's worked or not. So let's talk about what the economy actually is. What are shops? In Hermitcraft-like servers, shops are basically a world where you basically have a container, you put some items in the container, usually with a token of some kind, and that token allows you to actually go and tell you the price. So it's a little name tag or a bit of paper or an emerald, something which is locked as to what the price is. Another player, in this case me, comes along, wants that thing, a shovel, a pickaxe, whatever, and takes the item out and puts the diamond in its place. A bit later, the original shop owner comes back and collects all the diamonds. So it works on an honesty-based system. It works so you don't have to be online all the time, and it works. Like fundamentally, if you ignore people cheating and stealing and all the rest of it, and misreading tags, it genuinely does work as a process. But it's interesting to know actually some of the caveats around that, which are that prices often don't change because once the tag is in there, you've got to go back to change the prices. Prices aren't necessarily dynamic or fluctuating. So someone else can come and look at your shop and set up a shop right next door and just charge less and cut you all the rest of it. And that's fair. That's how shopping works, the supply and demand and all the rest of it. But this is the generic shopping that we do. Now, from this simple transaction, we can then move on to a more complicated idea of what the economy is. And again, there's no data I use to draw this. This is just a hypothetical with a whole bunch of new players on the left. And when they come on, they mine a few diamonds and they buy things from the more established players. Like they're buying mending books, they're buying better gear and equipment, they're buying elytra to get at the end faster. They're buying rockets from people with established rocket farms. And what that means is you have a general flow of diamonds into the pockets of the people who have those established farms. So you end up basically in this diagram with Stitch and Spoofy ending with most of the diamonds. And that's fine. That's how economies work. I think people are objecting to it and the idea is that it's not fair. They have all these established farms, they AFK, they got the gear. So they're going, they do. But if you reset and things, that will just start again. So I think very quickly you end up with people with established farms or doing deals. I also think there's a lot of micro economies going on. I think there are groups of people who have banded together who just use each other's farms and do deals with each other, not in the main shopping district. I also think there's possibly more than one shopping district where there are little areas where people are trading, not necessarily for diamonds, but that's interesting to know. I think we can model that as well because we have the raw data. And you might say, where do we have the raw data? Because the Minecraft world only stores them now. It doesn't really store history. Well, on our server, we run a thing called Coreprotect. Coreprotect is really interesting in that it actually tracks the changes that happen to the server. So in this case, the Coreprotect database would log 3 or 4 events. So it's logged that I've mined a diamond, then it logs that I've actually taken something from the container and I've put a diamond in the chest, and then it logs that Lego's come along and took the diamond from the chest. So we can analyse this stream of data to say actually what has actually happened. Now we use Coreprotect, the admins use Coreprotect to do rollbacks, the helpers use it to inspect and resolve conflicts when people say, oh, I've lost all the diamonds from my chest, someone robbed from my shop. I will say in my experience, half the times when someone's said that someone's nicked the dust off from my shop, I've gone there and it's been the shop owner having just taken it out. And that's fine, it happens. But it does happen more often than you realise that actually people are going, oh, stuff's missing from my chest. You go there going, yeah, it was you. You took that out. Because we get all this information about what's going out of chests. So the original plan was to use this data to actually produce information about the economy rather than just speculating that all the diamonds end up in Stitch. They all do end up in Stitch. And then we want to use this information to help the community to guide their decisions, saying, well, what do you want to do? Let's do a treasure giveaway. Let's take diamonds out of circulation. What do you want to do? Let's run a shopping tax, something like that. We can use it to see, well, what was the impact of those behaviours on the economy to get the desired outcome. If people want prices to be a little bit higher, what implemented process or rule do we put in that actually has the output, and did it actually work or not? So what we did was we took a copy of the database to do the analysis on. So we went impacting the live database. I will caveat this to say that we're being professional in how we interact. There is a bit of discussion about whether we do run this on the live database and how the live database works. I think if we do that, we're going to put position things in place to make sure that we cache in the results, so we're not hitting it all the time, and we're not going to give away access to everyone. I would really strongly fight that, because there is a lot of personal information in there. People might be doing private builds. You don't necessarily want to be publishing all that. I do think it needs to be anonymised and summarised, which is what we've been doing. So the first question we had when we took that copy was, why was the database so big? We haven't got that many players. So Red Hat Jedi took a copy, we've been analysing it, the copy, and we sit there going, the copy was a bit dodgy in the way we took the copy, in that we didn't pause the server, so the database got corrupted when we nicked it. But we've only got about 3 days of block interactions, 13 days of container interaction we use to analyse. And I also want to say that we did find some issues on the server from this data analysis. So what we discovered was, as we began to analyse it, that there were things on the server which weren't quite right. And this allowed us, this sort of changed the project. So half the project should be about the economy, and now we started looking at building helper tools to identify things on the server. So what we established was that most of the updates in the tables, in the Coreprotect tables, were not coming from the players. So in my original picture, I had 4 player interactions. There, we actually found that there weren't that many player interactions compared to system interactions. And my first reaction was, oh no, we've got runaway hopper clocks and flying machines. And as the person who builds flying machines and hopper clocks, I was like, it was me. I'm the person causing all the issues. The reality was, it wasn't me, and I'll show why. What's really interesting though is we did identify certain blocks which were causing a large percentage of the entries in the rows. Now, when we looked at those a bit more carefully, we found that actually some of those are correct. They should be generating larger entry rows because those chunks are always loaded by players, like they're in the shopping district or they are in the witch farm, which for the time period we had a lot of players in it, like 4 people, 5 people in the witch farm building it. Therefore, it's going to be loaded a lot. It's going to be a lot of interactions there. However, some of the blocks were actually being generated in one particular player had 3 zero-tick farms which were generating a large amount of material. That material was then flowing into hoppers. The hoppers were actually backlogged and the storage was fully full of items. So we had tens of thousands of items in storage, but the zero-tick farms were still running. That's not good for that person playing. It's not good for the server in general. So we talked to the person and said, can we just install an off switch so you can just turn it on and off? I don't like zero-tick farms personally, and this highlights something that as a data scientist you have to be very neutral when you talk to these people and say, look, we found this issue, can you avoid redesign a bit? We're not saying they're playing wrong, we're just saying you don't need it running all the time, and actually your game performance will improve if you have it turned off. I've seen another super smelter farm which was beautifully made, and it was a super smelter, and when it got low it had a zero-tick bamboo farm which automatically turned itself on and off depending on how much fuel was in the fuel bunker. And that's a great design because it means it's only running when it needs to be running, it's not overflowing anything, it's a fantastic little design. And that in itself is great. You could do it with redstone if you can do it. If you can't, just put an on-off switch and just turn it on and off when you're not using it, or when you run out of cactus or sugarcane or bamboo, you just turn it on for a few minutes and turn it off again because it will fill you up in that time. So we can identify bad builds. And the point of this, it's not about naming and shaming those people, it's about understanding whether the entries in the database are relevant or not. So first thing we found is actually we could delete most of our entries, and I'll explain where some of the entries come from. Imagine a completely flat world with Coreprotect on, and a player places a water block in the central position. That counts as a player interaction, so that's one for them. 4 ticks later, the water will flow out into the surrounding cells. So that's 4 updates which were not caused directly by the player. So in the database that would be counted, as far as we care, by a system update. It was water flowing to the next cell. And 4 ticks later, it then flows into cells around that. Now, it doesn't update the block it's already flowed into, but it doesn't update the next blocks. And so on, and so on, and so on, until you finally have all of the cells filled up with water and there's no more blocks being updated. Now, this basically gives you 112 blocks updated for only 1 player interaction. So you can see if all you're doing on the server is placing water and then removing the water, your ratio of interactions is going to be 112 to 1. And that's why we see the system updates is much higher than the player updates. Now, a bit more analysis of that actually also lets us discover whether or not what we have is things like perma-loaders running, because we can identify the chunks where things are happening where there is no player interaction. And you might not get player interaction because there may be an AFK farm, the player may be AFK in the farm, there may be other reasons that you're not getting interactions. And generally speaking, we're not seeing that at the moment, but it's really nice to be able to rule those out. People say, okay, AFK causes problem. We can now look at the data and go, it doesn't cause problem. We can actually start to analyse some of the issues we see in the server. And there's a bit of discussion about technical Minecrafters at this point saying, well, if you build something, does it actually break for the gameplay for other people on the server? Oh, there was one more. There was one, water flows one more, and that is 112 to 1. And the other thing here is that actually the database gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but actually we could probably delete 112 of these entries in the database. Now, I will say that every single row in the database has a value associated with a tangible information value, but not every row is equal value. So there's a big difference between you placing down some water so you can climb up a block in your own base, and you go into someone's build or map art and dropping a water bucket in the middle of it. There's a big difference in value. One of those has very little value, you climbed out of a hole. The other one is a griefing that we want to investigate. So before we just wipe all the water, we want to actually be able to identify which water entries we can wipe. And maybe we don't need to keep water entries for as long as we do, for example, diamond interactions, which we might have to keep longer for analytical means. So we can now optimize our database a little bit better and start helping Redhead and the admins look after the server and have less outages and issues further down the line. It's about preventative measures rather than reactive measures. You may say that's great for blocks, but why the container interaction is so high? We've got to remember containers are also brewing stands, trap chests, dispensers, droppers, hoppers, furnaces, shulker boxes. Ender chests are also containers, but they're not really, because your ender chest is stored in your player file, not in the block data, so it does not really a block. So one of the things I want to look at very quickly then is, once we actually take the economy data and graph it out into a graph, not a chart but a mathematical graph, is it looks a bit like this. This is a very small snippet where what we see here is actually two players in orange, the Mining Onion and Big Daddy Bronson, I think it is, and these are their diamond interactions with chests. So you can see that here what they've been doing is they've been removing diamonds or diamond blocks in their chests, and then they've been putting them into chests, I think in the shopping district, and the Mining Onion is taking those out later on. So this is just the diamonds, so you see at the bottom there, and actually there's a time sequence to this as well, which you can't see on this graph easily. But basically the idea is that Big Daddy's put them in the chest, Mining's come and taken them out, that's one transaction. Then he's also put diamonds back in another chest, which Big Daddy's bought up. So these guys have actually bought things off each other. This is a loop of diamonds going around in circles. And you've got to be very careful about the economy, because the economy doesn't work necessarily how you think it does, in that it's not the same diamond, it's not like the same pound coin or dollar note going around the circles. Effectively, once that's been merged into a big stockpile, it sort of gets merged into that idea. You can't necessarily trace money in the same way that you can physical money. It's more like electronic money. Once it's gone into an account and it got paid out again, it's a lot harder to do this forensic analysis of financial records. But we need more data to be able to draw bigger graphs over a longer period of time to sort of show this is what the economy is actually doing. Okay, so where do we go now? First of all, we don't have a great snapshot of the database. I would like to get access to the live database in a more controlled manner. We're talking Redhead about how that might work, but also aware that there are some technical issues there. And the last thing we want to do is impact the actual server for gameplay. That is definitely, we do not want to do that. It's no point making a tool to make your life easier if it makes your life harder somewhere else. But basically we can go in two paths. We can continue down the economy mapping, so we can look at diamond movements, the economy scale, the impact of different doing events, like if someone starts doing a mega build, does that impact the price of concrete across the server? What's the availability? Is things still happening? But also I think we can also start looking at helper tools. There's two types here. There's technical detectors. We can do things like detecting where lag is being generated. We can detect where builds are misbehaving. We can also detect people X-ray hacking. So you may come on the server, decide to X-ray hack when there's no one else online. We can still detect that you've X-ray hacked from statistics. It's actually very, very easy. People stand out like a mile. And people who are X-ray hacking won't be watching this video, so it's okay to say, hey, we will detect that and we will nickel their stuff and kick them off the server. But you can also do things that people like doing build bots. You can detect that, which really stands out like a mile as well. But also we can provide social assistance to help us. People often get asked, oh, does someone know where this person's base is when they're not online? Well, actually, yes, we can work that out as well. It's really easy. Your base stands out like a thumb in the data. And also we can detect people when they're stealing from shops a bit easier than the Coreprotect tools actually do. We can actually make a little tool. And these tools are very specific to our server, so we can build those, keep them private. Those are helper tools rather than the general economy tools. So I do want to separate those two strands out, because the way you look at the data is a little bit different. Anyway, that's all I've got time for today. That's as far as we've got. I wanted to share this all with you guys. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. There is no amusing outro slide today because I'm actually recording this on my other computer and I don't have the amusing pop-up. So we've got to remember the tab come and going, no, you want to click this video, and I'm saying, no, you want to click this video, and just click a video, okay? But hit like first.